Hi, this is Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy. On episode 3, we are going to talk about how we organize and how we plan. Enjoy! Hey Muffy, it's Habs. The question of how I organize and how I plan, it's kind of a loaded question because I really can't answer it in any straightforward way. It's complicated because I live in a house with 4 people with 4 very different styles. I use a number of different tools. I use sticky notes. I use 4x6 index cards. I use notebooks and notepads. I use my electronic calendar. And then, for the sake of the family, and also because I'm kind of a visual person, I have a wall calendar in the kitchen that has like what's going on for the month. And so it'll be everything from, mommy is going to a fundraiser for the homeless shelter, which I did last night. Of course, my husband is like, where are you going? I'm like, well, it's on the wall calendar. He's like, yeah, I don't look at that wall calendar. Here's another example this morning. He asked me, so what do we have going on for the weekend? And I was like, well, I'm going to Muffy's Halloween salon party. He's like, oh, you're doing that? I didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, I mentioned it to you. He's like, you did? I'm like, yeah, and it's on the wall calendar. Again, yeah, I don't look at that. I mean, well, maybe you should because it's there. He likes to use an electronic calendar, but our calendars aren't shared, so he has his own calendar and I have mine, and he'll send me invites and, from time to time on certain events, like he's taking T to Colorado to look at some colleges, so he shared that event with me just to get it on my calendar, but we don't share calendars electronically as a family, so the wall calendar is really the place that the girls go to see if there's anything in particular going on. It doesn't have a ton of detail, but it just has some of the basics, like, oh, Jay has field hockey practice today, or she doesn't. So I would like to say that I think in our house, it's a little bit of organized chaos, because we all have stuff going on. We're all trying to communicate in our different ways and different styles, but sometimes we end up not communicating at all. So T actually showed me this awesome, it's almost like a TV monitor, but it's like a calendar that you can hang in your kitchen, and it looks amazing. It's like $500, but I totally want it. It would replace my dry eraser board calendar that is in the kitchen, but oh my God. I mean, again, I need the visual sometimes. In addition to writing stuff down, that helps me to get organized. And I should mention, I'm very excited, but you have gotten me into this dream planner that was created by this woman, Polly, and I think her company is Horatio Printing, but the dream planner is like this book and this calendar, and you know more about it than me, so you can maybe remind me exactly about how it all works, because I'm still a little confused, but there are these classes that you can sign up that show you how to use your dream planner and how to get the most out of it. But it really, I think, what it will do is it's really going to help me plan for the week and be very intentional with my goals and getting things done. I did one of her just very simple classes just recently, and the one thing I got out of it was something about the last 90 days of the year and what goals do you have to work on, and she made the example of maybe your goal is working out more, and she's like, but be reasonable. If you never work out, don't put you're going to work out 5 days a week. I would cut that in half and say maybe 1 to 2 days, and that really resonated with me. So I'm excited for this dream planner and for taking these classes. I think they don't actually start until November, and that's where I'm a little confused, but maybe you can help me out on that. Yeah. But, I was just reflecting on my this week, and, I feel like, gosh, did I really get through, like, everything on my list? And, as it nears the end of the week, I'm like, well, actually, I did get a lot of things done, and I am able to cross off a lot of things from my list, and now my list doesn't feel so big. So, I don't know, in this kind of subconscious, roundabout way, I have my lists and I write them down and I get things done. It never feels like it when I'm in the thick of it, but when I reflect back, I'm like, oh, I actually did this, this, and this. So for myself, at least, that's how I organize myself. How I organize the rest of my family, honestly, the complete transparent answer is I don't. My girls organize themselves. They organize themselves in the morning when they get ready for school. They organize their room. They tell me if they're running low on clothes. I don't go through their room and say, oh, does Jay have X amount of pants, or she needs more of this or that? Nope. T and J tell me if they need something. I don't have the time between work, just everybody's lives. There's only so much I can do. So that's why I say it's a little bit of organized chaos, because in some ways I just have to let some things go. Is my house dirty? Absolutely. Do I like it? Absolutely not. But it's just not where I have to focus on what's most important. So when it comes to organization, I take what I can get, right? And that's the best I can do. And everything else, I kind of have to let go. I can let it bother me, but I have to move on and just say, well, it is what it is. I can't even imagine having a family bigger than a family of 4. I mean, I know families of 6 and more. And I mean, planning and organization, that's got to go out the window, right? I mean, to some degree, there's a level of planning. I mean, if I had it my way, I would plan my entire year for my family and for myself. And I would know what we're doing for Christmas, what we're doing for the holidays, what we're doing next summer. And my dog's looking at me like, why are you talking into your phone again? It's quite annoying. I'm trying to sleep. Anyways, I got distracted there. But I would plan for the entire year. Unfortunately, my husband does not allow me to do that. I mean, he doesn't physically not allow me or tell me, but he just can't think that far ahead. So when I start to get ambitious and tell him all these plans, he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, he's got to wrap his brain around it. He has to let it soak in. And by the time he does that, it's already too late. For example, spring break. I would start talking about spring break right now. There's no way he can wrap his brain around that, let alone Halloween or Thanksgiving, which I actually do need to talk to him about. But spring break, no way. So then we'll start talking about it in the new year, and then he'll kind of hem and haw, and I will do a ton of research and come up with all these ideas and be like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then he's like, whoa, wait a minute. And then he'll do his own research. And then all the work that I've done, again, it's just like a total waste of time because we end up doing something totally different. So that part of our marriage is a little frustrating. But, I've lived with him for a long time. And again, sometimes you just have to go with it. You just have to wing it. So the sacrifices of marriage and then throwing 2 kids in the mix, for sure, is not easy and usually quite complicated, no matter how long you've been a family. I think if A and I didn't have kids, it would be more simple and more straightforward. But even then, I'm sure there would be, you've got 2 different people with 2 different schedules and styles and that kind of thing. But I think we'd be able to communicate a little bit better because there's so many distractions and there's so many things going on that, I I can't remember if I told A that this is happening or that's happening, or, last night Jay and A called me while I was at this fundraiser and said, so when is the math tutor coming over? Like, the math tutor's not coming over tonight. She's coming over tomorrow night. What? So it's like we don't really have time to communicate. Like I said, we get up in the morning and the girls are out the door in like 20 minutes. 20, 30 minutes tops. A and I get up and we send them off, or sometimes I will drive T, and then we're on our merry way for the day. And then we all come back at the end of the day, and again, there's a lot of chaos. So there's just like there's no time to communicate. So it goes back to my theme of like, a lot of times I'm just winging it. And while I would love to have everything organized, as I look around my bedroom, I see piles of clothes. I see a couple of blankets. They've been here since the summer. And I do put things away, but, if it's a nice day out on the weekend, am I going to pick like cleaning up my clothes or spending some time outside? Or having to manage the girls or whatever else it might be. I will say this. A and I are on the same page when it comes to summer. Now, when the girls were younger, I was like, by January, I was researching different camps and knowing exactly when things were opening up. And A would put together a spreadsheet and we'd already have our plans. So when my mother-in-law would say in June, so when do you want to come up to Maine this summer? I'd be like, our plans are set. This is when we're coming, right? Like, there's no, like, wiggle room. So, and then, like, by February, A would book all of them and pay the deposits and everything like that, because when you have two little kids and you're both working, like, you need to know that they are, like, they're doing something. They can't sit at home by themselves, and we're working, and we have to schedule our vacations, and we have to do that with our employers, and then we have to do it with the camps. So that is a very well greased machine when it comes to the summer plans. It is changing as the girls get older. T is now in high school. She's not going to camp. She doesn't like being a camp counselor. But she did get a job this summer, so she will be working. But she's also hanging out with friends and then doing stuff for school. Like next summer, she's going to be taking an essay course for the SAT, or for the college essay applications, essays. But it's a little bit harder. But she is more independent, so there's that. Jay still goes to camps, but based off of this last summer, we kind of have a pretty good idea of what she'll be doing next summer. So that actually feels really good, and it's one less thing on my plate. At the end of the day, I am a planner. I do like to have things all organized and ready to go. But I've also, with enough years of experience, I'm able to just pivot if I need to. And yeah, maybe be upset at first, but then, shrug my shoulders and say, well, I gotta move on. This is what we're doing now. Okay. And so just accept it and pivot. And I do that quite a lot. So, the planning it's not straightforward. The organization is not straightforward. Somehow, magically, it does get done. And sometimes I surprise myself. I surprise myself a lot of times. So there's just no such thing as a perfect world being organized in my life. And I've just come to accept that, because what else can I do? If I try and manage everything, that's not good for anybody, and it's certainly not good for me at the end of the day. And I think it has being flexible, being nimble, and being able to pivot, and also giving space and time for people to just relax has really helped my girls. I see many families where they're organized and everything's planned every minute of the day, and I don't know if that's good. So I'm proud of that fact, that we have learned to just give ourselves a break and at the same time get things done that we want to get done. So I'll leave you on that. Those are my thoughts. There's so much more I could say, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Muffy. Bye. Love you.
Hey Habs, it's Muffy. I have to say I love talking about this topic. I actually get off on it. And I'm thinking, you have 4 people in your home with 4 different styles. Wow. Like, it really gets me off. I don't know why. I like to think about organizing and calendaring and just all of it. So this is just a great topic. I also use a lot of different calendars too. And I've seen your wall calendar, and I think it's just really cool. It's big, it's visual. It's funny that A can't see it or doesn't ever look at it, because it's right there. And you're right. When I've looked at it, I don't see a lot of detail on it, but I see a few things that feel like they're important to take note of. And I would be looking at that all the time if I was a part of your family, because I just like calendars, and it's just cool, to have a big calendar on one's wall in the kitchen. I hear you about the digital one or the electronic one, which is what everyone's moving toward. But I don't know, for me, there's something about just writing on a calendar, whether that be just a whiteboard, a big whiteboard, or in a real big calendar that you're writing on with a marker. But I like to actually write things down. I don't know, it helps me remember. I just like the feel of it. So I actually vote for keeping it old school, but I can hear the intrigue into the big electric calendar that could be a screen on your wall. All we need is another screen, right? I have to admit that I have wanted to share with RK an electric calendar thing, where you can share your calendars. And I asked him to put that together, and he doesn't know how to do it, and I don't know how to do it, so we do not share electric calendars. I know everyone else does. I loved how you said, sometimes he gives me a reminder or puts something on my calendar. I'm like, how do you do that? I mean, we're part of this Gen X that is very tech challenged. I know there's a lot of people in our generation that are not, and probably because they have kids and they're keeping up. Being childless, I think that's one of the problems, is that you just don't come into the newer days and newer things easily. So as I said, I've always wanted to share an electronic calendar, but we are still not doing that. RK, my husband, he didn't even have a calendar up to a year ago. Can you even believe that? He's running 2 careers right now. He's a professional doctor, but he's also in show business these days, and, a comedian. And, when we moved to the East Coast, I just always thought he had a calendar that he was keeping all his, medical to-dos, work to-dos, and then life to-dos, because over there we owned 2 homes, and we have 2 pets, and we have everything. But I don't really think RK did much with the home or the pets in life. I think that was pretty much me, and he was just focused on, his work, and his work, he's pretty high functioning. He could just keep all that in his mind, meetings he's got to go to and things he's got to do. So when he started doing this other career, he wasn't really tracking anything of it. And a year ago, I was like, well, what did you do this past week? He's like, I didn't do anything. Nothing happened. I'm like, well, how do you know? And he really didn't know because he hadn't tracked anything. I was like, you mean you're not calendaring? So I had a calendaring 101 session with him, if you can even believe it, just talking about before a week begins, sitting down and where's your time going? Where, you're working your job, but also when you go into the city to do the show business stuff, where are you going? I'm going to this thing, I'm going to that, I'm doing this, I'm meeting this person, tracking all of that. So you can look back on your week and say what you got accomplished. Like you said, you looked back on this past week and said, I actually got through a lot of things, but also to know kind of where you're headed next. So I actually had to give him like a tutorial on just like calendaring. And I never even knew that. I've been married to the guy for 21 years. I never even knew he didn't calendar up until he started having 2 careers. Now he's doing that. So some people are just, like pretty high functioning people. I am like you. I have multiple calendars. I have a calendar that I love called Redstone. Don't know if anyone else has ever heard of this, but it's a calendar out of the UK. I fell upon it years ago, and they do like a theme for the year. It's a desk calendar, so it's old school, but each week they have a different picture or quote or something about the theme they're in. And this year for 2024, it's family. Wow. And they pick such interesting curated quotes and books and pictures and ideas around family, whatever the theme is. I just love it. There's no way I could give up my Redstone calendar. And on that calendar is where I kind of just outline my work hours and what time I'm going to exercise if I'm doing it on a given day. And maybe something that's going on at night, but it's just kind of an overall sketch that I can grab and look at. I also have the electronic calendar on my computer that goes to the phone. The thing is, you've got to make sure that whatever's on the desk calendar is also going to the electronic calendar, because that's the one I carry around everywhere, right? So I do use an electronic calendar, and I like that it syncs up the phone and the computer as long as I put it in there, right? Because the one I'm putting on the paper calendar doesn't sync up like that. And then, yes, I have started to use something called the Dream Planner, which is produced by Horatio Printing Company. And BC, the one who originally started these VMs with me, was the one who knew about this company and was encouraging me about a year ago, last October, to get a dream planner. And she was hearing how I was organizing things and, that I like calendaring. And she was like, I really think you could benefit from this. So I was game. There was a discount code. And as we both know, we love different calendars using multiple. So I was like, well, even though I'm not going to give my Redstone, this will be interesting. Let's see. I have to say to you, this Dream Planner calendar has totally upped my game. And I want to say first, I'm going to say a few things about this calendar. It has a religiosity element. It is known as a Christian planner. Now, I am a Christian. I was raised in the Lutheran Church. I went to Catholic schools all my life from grade 1 through 12. And we had very close Jewish friends who we celebrate all the Jewish holidays with. And my father is from India and is Hindu. So I had a very much ecumenical upbringing. But my actual faith that I was kind of brought up in was Lutheran, so Protestant. These days, I would probably say I'm religious and I'm spiritual. And this calendar has a religious element. Now, if you aren't that religious, this may not be the planner for you. But if you are, or you have any sort of inkling towards spirituality, or looking at kind of a religious element in your planning. It doesn't have to be a part of the planning, but there are quotes and stuff in this planner from the Bible. If that, is something that resonates with you, or, I think you can make it as religious or as non-religious as you want, actually, but it's there. I just want to say it's there. So I always say that to people because a lot of people that I know are not very religious or are not practicing religion regularly. And that is certainly me. But I was still given my background, and I do have as a faith element in my life, I was I can work with that. It's fine. And I think you, Habs, are also saying you're similar to me. That's a little bit of a background on that. But I want to say that this planner, what it does and how it's upped my game is it is very intentional. Yes, Habs, there is a class. So what you do when you get this planner is you register your planner. And when you register the planner, then you come into these classes. And the classes are not start in November. They start anytime. Once you register, Polly, who owns the company, and this is her planner, she records all of these episodes of calendaring that go with the dream planner, and you can do those at any time. For me, I did it last November. It took about 2 weeks to go through everything because I wanted to take the time. So you can start at any time though, and just the classes run like maybe up to an hour. So it is some significant time because there's like maybe 10 to 15 classes if I recall. But it's worth it because she takes you through all the exercises that are in the planner. And what you're really doing is you're taking your intentions, your values, your morals, what is important to you, and getting at those things, defining those things, and then getting them into your life through your calendaring process. Meaning that through the exercises at the beginning of each quarter that she takes you through, that you then go ahead and make sure that those areas that you're focusing on that are important to you outside of your daily to-do list are in that weekly calendar too. Like you're talking about exercise, like if you want to exercise 4 times a week, and that's one of your goals that you put in the earlier pages of the quarter, you put that into your 4 days in that given week and see if you can hit that mark. And you do that across all these different areas. So I think it's the intentionality. It's so powerful that I got my 2025 planner, and I haven't even gone there yet. I probably won't until mid-November because I'm still very intentioned around my last 90 days of 2024. I wanted to go through that fall refresh that you took, that did, and I wanted to update my vision board, and I wanted to look at what's important right now because I'm working on things that are important right now. So it grounds you in the present, and let's face it, it's basically what we have. So that's what I want to say about that. I heard you about travel planning. We are able to kind of get ahead of things due to RK's work schedule and him knowing kind of what his weeks are off into like the next 6 months or the following 6 months. So we are always planning ahead like that because for me with my patients, I have to like kind of let them know. So we do have the gift of that between each other. And I hear you saying it'd be easier if you didn't have kids. I want to say, yeah, we don't have children, but we have furry children. So that complicates things because where do we send them? You know, we really care about them, like, and that they get good care while we're away. And so that's our challenge is like, okay, who's going to be watching the cat? Who's going to be watching the dog? And sometimes we've missed the mark on that. So that's always kind of on our minds is about, the pets. But yeah, we do get to be able to get a chance to like, outline where we're going in the year ahead, because of the way his holiday schedule works. It was funny about you saying about challenges to communicate about calendaring with A. What our time is to communicate is 5 a.m. I consider that our dinner hour because his hours are 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. because he's working West Coast hours. And then he goes in and he's doing the comedy business. So like we communicate at the 5 a.m. hour. We get up, we go through this whole I have this whole morning routine. We have breakfast, and that's where we kind of connect and communicate about our weeks, what's going on, maybe travel, whatever is happening. I mean, that it's just funny. Like I'm glad that I do get up with him because my work day really doesn't begin until like 10 or 11, but I make sure to get up and be with him so that we have that time. It's really like alternative, right? Like my dinner hours at 5 a.m. with my husband, but that is actually when we communicate. So I'm noting I wanted to get to your summer planning and just your nimbleness and your pivot and your flexibility. I think that is amazing. I think that you're surprising yourself is incredible. I love that way of relating to all of this. And I think that's in the nuance, right? It's not all something or all nothing. And you have to stick. It's like constantly changing. So I just wanted to applaud that. I think that's amazing. And I strive for that. I'm probably not as nimble as you. And I would say that because, you were saying if it's between cleaning up my clothes or time outside on a nice day, like I'm going to go outside. And I was sitting there like Hab saying, well, I would like be in the closet cleaning up my clothes. Like that's the truth of it. That's why I would like be putting, if I had children, them on the therapy couch as adults. Because like maybe I'm not so nimble. Cheers. I look forward to hearing from you, Habs. Love you.
I remember not so long ago you told me about how you get off on watching other people all organize, and if you could just sit and watch with a bag of popcorn, you'd be happy. For example, if I was like organizing my basement, you would just love to be there watching with the popcorn. Anytime. We all get our thrills in different ways. I personally do not like watching people organize because it would be hard for me to resist stepping in or suggesting something or just, inserting myself. So I'm much better at just being the one that organizes. Now, both T and I like to organize, so it's hard when we do it together because we kind of fight one another a little bit, like not in a serious yelling kind of way, but we just have very specific views of how things should be organized. And so sometimes that doesn't work. I've recently reorganized stuff in my kitchen with my spices and pots and food. Generally speaking, we actually made a pantry out of our hallway closet because it wasn't really being used and we needed more space. And T and I definitely disagreed on what should go in the pantry versus the shelves in the kitchen. And when I was away this summer in Maine, she just went ahead and reorganized it, so, which was a little annoying, but I kept some stuff, but I also moved other stuff. The little things. But yeah, I do like my physical wall calendar in the kitchen. The one thing that's intriguing about the electronic, like monitor-sized one is just that it would be clean. Like my wall calendar can get very messy, and after a while, like the dry eraser markers, like it doesn't really come off well, even if I have the cleaner. So I do replace it from time to time, but I also, when I have to replace it, there's a sticky backing, so it peels off some of the paint. Not a big deal if I'm just going to cover it up again. So yeah, it just would be a matter of it would be more clean and maybe more fun and colorful. I personally, I like writing things down. I like writing with either a blue or a black pen or a pencil. And it has to be a regular pencil, not a colored pencil, and not a mechanical pencil. I hate those mechanical pencils. I wouldn't say hate, but I strongly dislike. Because they always break, like so much easier than a regular pencil. But I don't really like using colors with my writing utensils. So that's interesting. I don't mind it if it's electronic, but when it comes to physical, the physical writing, I don't like the colors. Just a little aha moment there for myself. And yeah, I do write things on the calendar that are kind of significant or noteworthy. I don't write everything on it. It's more just stuff that kind of everybody should know about. And since we don't all share like electronic calendars, or the girls don't see all of my emails or communications, which they shouldn't, they know, for example, that on Saturday, Mama is going to be at the library benefit, or it's Fall Fest Day at the middle school. So just like, and then it's fun to put like the holidays on it, or the days off from school. The girls look at it and they get super excited because even though I have a calendar, the school calendar up, they never look at that. They look at my wall calendar. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, I would say, kids definitely make you a little bit more tech savvy. It's interesting that Jay already knows how to use Canva, and I've only used it like maybe once, and I don't even know who taught her, if anyone. And T, she has like total control over the remote. Like I really actually don't know how to use the remote very well. And so, the downsides of having kids that keep you up to date with technology is that then they do everything for you, and then you don't learn how to do it, right? So it's interesting, right? Yeah, but if you don't have kids, I can see where keeping up with the technology and just knowing what's out there or what can and can't be done, like, would just kind of like fly by you, because why would you be aware? I think about like P and J, the girls' grandparents, and they know some stuff, but there's a lot of stuff like when we get together and T will be like, well, you could do this or that. And they're like, really? So yeah, it is interesting about that. It's funny that RK has never kept a calendar until recently. It makes sense. Maybe he's just a late bloomer. I have friends M and T, and M always gets so angry that her husband T does not have a calendar. He does not keep a calendar, and he has no clue what's going on. And they have 2 boys, so it just drives her mad. And she brings it up like constantly. So, and he just kind of sits there and smiles. So I don't know. I guess whatever works, right? Everybody has their own system, but I can definitely see the value of calendaring and like the concepts behind it, because like I think about like I'm not working while I'm working. I'm working as a parent. I'm working on my own business. I'm working on looking for jobs, but I don't have a set schedule really. And a calendar just helps to keep me in line, especially when like if you don't have a set schedule, or if you have free time, you're like, oh, what should I do? When you have a list of things to do. So if you have it on the calendar, you're more apt to get it done. I also like to write lists, and that kind of plays into my calendaring, if you will. It helps to direct me when I am lost or when I do have free time. It's funny, when the girls are not around and it's just A and I, all of a sudden we're like, we have free time. What do we do? Like, we don't know what to do with our free time because we never have free time. And it's like we've forgotten what to do with it. So, all the lists and the calendaring, it just, it helps keep me out of trouble, right? Because I can easily go off on a tangent, or like I always have so many thoughts running through my head, or I hear this or I see that, and then I instantly want to look it up. So, I can kill a lot of time unnecessarily, right? But sometimes it's fun, right? Just to kill time for the heck of it. But again, having a planner, having a calendar, or at least a list helps to keep me refocused and helps to keep me from getting distracted. For example, this morning I was like thinking to myself, why do I poop so much? I know, maybe this is TMI, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, why do I poop so much? Or how much does a mature tree cost? Because I need to replace the bushes in front of my house, and I don't really want to buy baby ones because I don't want to wait for them to get bigger. So, like, these are the types of tangents I can go off on. Again, just going back to the whole calendar and list, it just keeps me in line to stay focused on the things that actually need to get done, like finding T a therapist, right? Not wondering how much a adult bush costs, right? And you can take that in so many different ways, but I won't. Anyways, I just had to go light on the matter, but it's so true. It's funny. It's so true. So I guess if I could, sync my electronic calendar with my paper calendar, that would be amazing. I'm sure there's got to be an invention out there for that, but maybe not. I don't know. There must be, I'm sure. There's an invention for everything. But yeah, it's just hearing you talk about like the paper calendar, it's so funny. That's what my mom used to use. She literally had a printout of a calendar just like on a black and white piece of paper, and she would write out her whole week and month, like what church meetings or what she was having for dinner, or, who knows. But it's funny, this concept of the paper calendars, it's so old school, but it's actually so like new school. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Gen Z doesn't really do the paper calendar. I mean, I know my friends A and S, they have to do like a physical calendar just to kind of keep like in line because they have like 3 kids and they're coming and going so much, and A travels, and one of their children is in college, and so it gets even crazier, right? Four people you think is crazy, but when you have 5 people and more, it just gets even crazier. I mean, I think it's easier and I think it's harder with kids or no kids. I think, I mean, you do have furry friends, and so that does take a lot of thinking and thought into your planning. I'm sorry, P is finding something to be bark at, which is not uncommon. Happens almost at least once every 10 minutes. Yes, I don't know if it's a generational thing or, I mean, my mom did the paper calendaring and here I am doing it. Granted, I didn't grow up with electronics. I mean, neither of us did. We didn't really get like major electronics until we were both in college when the computer was essentially born. I mean, that's generalizing it to an extensive amount, but you know what I mean. I realized you went to Catholic school, but I didn't realize you went from K to 12. For some reason, I don't know, I thought you went to public school in high school, but I didn't realize that. So I was going back, sorry, about the whole, furry friends. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to organize your furry friends and, when your cat and your dog when you go away. So, no, that's not easy because pet care can be really challenging. On the flip side, so not the flip side, but, speaking from having kids, it can be harder because you've got 4 differences of opinions and schedules, etc. But at the same time, it can be easier because you do have set schedules and when you have those breaks and, everybody does have an opinion in the matter, or at least in our household, it's not just A and I dictating what we're going to be doing, but, and so in some respects, it does make it easier. And it has taught me to kind of be nimble and, change on a dime because I have to. I don't have any other choice. Hopefully that speaks as a good role model, my behavior to be able to be nimble and change and, in a moment's notice, and just refocus is a good thing because sometimes you just have to pivot. I will end my my part here, or at least this part right now, to say I think it would be so funny. How they have those movies where the daughter and the mom switch bodies and then experience something different. I think it would be hysterical if they made a movie about somebody who didn't have kids but had pets and then going into the body of somebody who did have a bunch of kids and pets, and just to see how that would play out. I'm sure there's a movie like that, but I just think that would be hilarious.
Don't keep me wondering there, Habs. Why do you poop so much? And how much does an adult bush cost? These are all things that are now on my mind. So get back to me on those. I think it's interesting about killing time and how our minds can go to those sorts of things. I find that's really true on my Tuesdays when it's my non-clinical day, meaning I don't see patients. And I'm not spending as much time running around the city, seeing stuff, and spending a bit more time at my home on my own projects. How do you balance your free time, for me, my non-clinical time, and doing some things that might be interesting, and then also, not doing to rest a little bit, and also then, working on other projects besides my patients and my therapy practice. So I think that it's an interesting thing to try and balance between, the to-dos and free time and what is that. By the way, I'm glad you did mention that you are working. Being a mom is just full-time work. So I know you're also launching your own business and also looking for a 9-to-5 job. So lots of work you are doing all the time. I love that idea of syncing an electric and paper calendar. You and I need to invent that. I would think, as I was saying, like I have these paper calendars, the Dream Planner, Redstone, that I like to write in. And then I have, my electric calendar, the Google Calendar. And of course I have my calendar for my practice. So I have tons of calendars, but one would be wonderful if all that could just sync up. And you are right. I remember my mother had a calendar on her desk. I think it was actually a drugstore calendar that she got, that she would just write her bridge dates, her church stuff, people coming and going, maybe doctor's appointments, and, it was just always sit there. I mean, she was not a very neat person, so it was always like piled over with other stuff, but underneath all the piles was this kind of drugstore calendar that she got. I don't know from which place, but she seems to have it every year. And it's just like a small little calendar that she writes on in blue ink, in cursive. I can see it right now in front of me. It's so, so real, always through the years. So there's something to that. And I also, you're talking about that old school versus new school. I went back to therapy school in my 40s, so I'm pretty recent out as a therapist. And my first class on the first day of school, this was when I was, 44? So what was it, the fall of 15. The professor said, because everyone had their computers out and we're going to write their, type their notes electronically. And the professor was like, please put away the computers. Please go get an old spiral notebook and take notes, because when you write things down, that is better remembered and absorbed in the brain than anything typing electrical. I thought that was so interesting. I mean, maybe that is like, it's years later since 2015. It's almost 10 years later. Maybe that idea of like just going old school and writing it down actually is what sticks in our brains. I know for me, I have to write it down. I just have to. And like I had to write those notes too, and it did stay in my mind. But they were saying that even for younger people, write it down. So everything new is old again. Or everything old is new again, please. So I just want to say that. I also keep a to-do list. I have a pink journal right now that says she leaves a little sparkle wherever she goes, and it's my to-do list. Every week I write down all the to-dos, which is really, really helpful, as well as these calendars. So it's just a lot, right? Just a lot of things, but I do keep track of it, which is kind of an interesting thing that I can keep track of all these different calendars and lists. But I think it does keep me on track as well. RK, I think as his main career, he just knew what that was. And then he had his gym schedule or whatever else was going on. I think it's pretty contained. I think doing 2 careers or trying to have another career, he really needs it. So that second career is what's made him bloom late in life, for sure. I thought that was interesting about you calling us having major electronics in college. I remember I had a word processor. Remember those? And I tell you, as an aside, when I went back to therapy school, fellow students would come up to me. I mean, I never felt much older than them, but I think I really was about 20 years older than a lot of people, or at least 10 to 20 years. And they'd be like, what did you do before the internet was around? And I'm like, well, we all just kind of sat around and prayed that Bill Gates would grow up and invent it. And they would just be like, oh. One thing I noticed, I will say about this, like with research papers now versus then when we were in college, today is miraculous, right? You can get like 1,000 sources in like 1 minute at your fingertips. Back then, you go to the library, go to the card catalog, look at everything up, and you had maybe 3 to 5 sources. So, I mean, I think we had fewer sources, but we went more in depth on the sources we had. And now today, I think you have so many sources and you just kind of skip the stones over all of them. I noticed that as a major, major difference in paper writing that I did in my master's program versus my undergraduate. Yeah, pet care is something. I mean, M&R don't have a lot to say in it. I have found that the cat care for M is so super expensive in this area. I mean, and the charges when it's holidays and everything. So we're getting a little creative. And this trip that we're taking in December, actually, the cat sitter's coming from my old town in to visit. I know that sounds extraordinary, but it really isn't. It's cheaper than any local cat care I could get around here. Even with the flight, it's like hundreds of dollars cheaper. So she is going to come in and take care of M for a part of it. And then RK's cousin and neighbors are going to come up and spend a week in New York for Christmas, and they're going to stay at our place and they're going to watch M. So she's going to have quite the holiday season. I'm so happy she will not be alone on Christmas. I just have to say that. I know she's just a cat, doesn't know, but I know, right? So it should be an exciting month for her. Of course, R goes to his camp in the Poconos, and it'll be snowy and probably very Christmassy for him. Yeah, I think you are right to be nimble, to change on the dime, to be able to refocus, and the ultimate ability to pivot. I think that is just awesome. I also do that. I think with kids, with technology, with the 4 calendars and the 4 people and all the different ways of organizing and calendaring and communicating, you have to be. You just have to be. And interesting talking about some of your friends and their schedules and what they use. I mean, it's all in the pivot. For sure. And, I have my calendar, but then things come up here on this end too, and I'm pivoting. And it's just, I think at this age of my life, I just don't care. I'm not so tied to anything, actually. I think that just comes as you get older. And yeah, that would be hilarious. For us, that could be like a wife swap, 2 kids and a dog for 1 dog and a cat. And don't forget the husbands. And I brought this up before, and you said you didn't think it'd be fair to me. And Jay was completely adamant and against me swapping out for you. But it would be hilarious, I have to say. I mean, this wife swap thing is still in my mind. And on this end, RK was really open to it. You becoming the wife. And, I didn't hear any complaints from the furry kids either. So maybe, we could try like a little like wife swap, kids, dog, and the dog and cat, and see what happens. Hilarious. And definitely get back to me on the poop in the bush. I have to know. There you go, Habs. Love you.
Thanks for listening to the Girls Who Gab, gabbing about our calendars. For more, follow us on Instagram at Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy. Till next time.